Hello, everyone. I'm Sahara Loveland, author of the memoir, The Ordinary Black Woman, and you're tuned into Sahara Speaks. Today, I want to talk about self respect, not confidence, not looking in the mirror, telling yourself you're beautiful, not pretending you don't care about what anybody thinks. I'm talking about something much deeper than that. I'm talking about what happens when you finally become willing to disappoint other people before you continue disappointing yourself. Because I think a lot of us spend years believing we have to be kind, and that's just simply not true. We want to be considered kind, we want to be considered nice, we want the people to say we are easy to get along with. We don't want to be difficult, we don't want to be selfish, we don't want somebody to misunderstand us. So we start doing something, right? We start editing ourselves as if we're editing a video or editing a picture. We explain our boundaries. We laugh at something that really wasn't funny to us. We keep answering the phone. We keep showing up. We keep making excuses of behavior that if we saw somebody else tolerating, we would tell them, oh, you need to not put up with that. You need to walk away. But when it comes to ourselves, it's as if we don't subconsciously get the same memo. That is what I want to talk about because there comes a point in your life when that version of you have to die. And I know it's hard, but sometimes growth is dramatic. Sometimes becoming who you were supposed to be all along, bearing a version of yourself that was built around completely leaving yourself. Fear somebody will get angry. Fear somebody will leave. Fear somebody will misunderstand your intentions. And when you continue to live like that, you become incredibly easy to manipulate because now all somebody has to do is become someone disappointed in you. That's it. They don't have to threaten you. They don't have to yell. They don't have to do anything dramatic at this point. They just have to look unhappy, unpleased. And suddenly you start questioning yourself. Maybe I should help. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should answer. Maybe I should call. Maybe I should explain myself one more time. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I was too mean. Maybe I should give them another chance. And before you know it, their disappointment has become more important to you than your own discomfort, than your own comfortability. That's not self respect. That's not self possession. And the scary part is that you can do it for so long, it starts to feel normal. You start thinking being endlessly accommodating is simply your personality. It's not. But eventually you have to ask yourself, right? At what point does understanding other people turn into abandoning myself? That is mental and psychological slavery. That's what that is. You know, that's been on my mind. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people need to hear because a lot of people are living their life on autopilot of what they believe they should be. They're not living their life based on who they're meant to be, who they are. They're living their life on based on making other people comfortable. And that's not living at all. You know, it comes a point in our life where we have to uphold the boundary without saying we have boundaries. Uphold the standard without saying we have standards. Uphold the self-respect without having to say, I have self-respect. It's time that we start saying no without saying nothing else after that. No is the complete sentence. Sometimes no is that. No. Sometimes I don't want to is enough. Sometimes that doesn't work for me is the entire end of the explanation. That doesn't mean you're cruel. That doesn't mean you're aggressive, especially if you know you're naturally pleasant in the way you speak, right? You know, there comes a point in time where you have to unleash the beast. And that doesn't mean becoming aggressive. That doesn't mean hurting people just because you finally realize that you have power. That is not what I mean when I say unleash the beast. When I say unleash the beast, the world made you bury. I'm talking about becoming your full self. I'm talking about resurrecting the part of you that knew how to protect you before the world convinced you that protecting yourself made you difficult, right? That's what I'm talking about. You know, the part of you that you could trust what you felt, trust what you heard, trust your own discomfort. The part of you that could say, I don't like this, and let that matter. That is the beast, not aggression, instinct, discernment, truth, boundaries, self-possession, the ability to disappoint another person and survive their disappointment, the ability to be misunderstood and not chase somebody around trying to correct their perception of you. That is power in that. And it's a sweet power that tastes so good. It feels so good. And every day I wake up, I feel more of that power coming back. The kind of power that I didn't feel since I was about 10 years old. Can you believe that? I haven't felt this sense of power since I was about 10 years old. And I really felt a sense of who I was. And you need that power too. Because now your kindness becomes a choice. It don't becomes, it's no longer a survival instinct. Your generosity becomes a choice. Your forgiveness becomes a choice. You are no longer giving things because you are terrified somebody will leave if you don't. That changes the entire game. There is no game. The only game there was the game other people are playing. And you know what I noticed? People like that who are operating life playing a game, when they come in contact with somebody like me, the real deal, and I'm not playing a game, but yet I'm still kind, yet I still have boundaries, yet I still have standards. I notice those type of people, they initially believed that my kindness probably was some type of game, right? That my niceness was probably some type of game or some type of weakness. But when they realize that it is neither, they become flustered. You know, they become confused. They become all riddled up. They become fidgety because you're not giving them anything to work with, because who you are is authentic. And not only is it authentic, You're authentic with boundaries. You're authentic with standards. You still have the ability to be nice, to be kind, to be sweet, to be respectful. But you are no longer a floor mat. And that's what trips them out. That's what trips them out. Because they realize, oh, the only person playing the game is me. This person is free. This person is truly free in a way that I'm not. And when people who knew you before you became that person, they start saying things like, you changed, you're different, you're selfish, you think you're better than everybody else. Baby, I don't think I'm better than nobody. I just changed in a way that became growth for me to keep my self-possession. Maybe what you miss is not my kindness. Maybe what you miss is my lack of boundaries. Maybe what you called the old me was actually fear that was inside of me. Maybe what you called easygoing was me, but I was swallowing things that I should have addressed. Maybe what you called patient was me staying far beyond the expiration date of the interaction. Of course, I'm different. I'm supposed to be, but I'm always self-possessed and I'm always authentic. I still feel that 10-year-old little girl in myself now, but now she's a adult version of herself. I'm no longer the version of me from the age of, I'll say, 11 to 28. I'm no longer that version. That version was operating out of fear, not operating out of self-possession. It was operating on autopilot. But now, all those things that I feared I would lose, I no longer have that fear anymore. Every survival skill does not deserve a permanent position in your life. At some point, you have to ask yourself, does this still protect me, or is this imprisoning me? Is this something that have chains around my mind? Who wants to be in a prison within themselves? Nobody. Who wants to constantly monitor everybody else's emotional temperament? That's exhausting. Constantly worrying, is this person bad? Do they still like me? Did I do something wrong? Should I apologize? Should I prove I'm a good person more even though I already know I am? Baby, that is prison. And the doors open, the key unlock to that cage when you realize somebody else's opinion of me is not an emergency. Somebody else's misunderstanding of me is not an emergency. Somebody deciding they don't like me is not an emergency. Somebody rejecting me is not an emergency. And once you understand that, people lose a tremendous amount of leverage over you. Because how can somebody control you with the threat of disapproval when you no longer care about their approval? How do they guilt you into compliance when you are willing to let them be upset? How do they force you to keep explaining when you are comfortable letting your first answer stand as is? They can't. And that doesn't mean you become emotionalist, right? Because I am riddled with so much emotion, and I take pride in that because I feel everything, and that makes me ultra human. I don't know, maybe that's the Leo in me. I feel like I'm an ultra human sometime, and I feel like everybody else, they're half human, a piece of a human. I don't know. Maybe that's just the Leo in me that raises my ego sometimes subconsciously. But sometimes walking away hurts. Sometimes setting a boundary make you cry. Sometimes choosing yourself feels lonely sometimes. That does not mean the decision was wrong. People sometimes confuse pain with a warning sign. No. Sometimes pain is just simply grief. Grief that's something you still felt like you needed, had to leave because your self respect became stronger. You stop asking all of those questions. Will they be upset? You start asking, is this healthy for me? You start asking questions like that. Do this affect me keeping my self possession? You start asking questions like that. That is a completely different way of living that you were used to living. You stop forcing, you stop convincing, you stop chasing, and you start observing. You stop auditioning, and you just remain authentic and be the best person that you can be. And there's a different type of freedom that comes with that. It's a different type of peace that comes with that. I learned that I cannot control another person's character. I can only control mine. And when I realized that, I stopped auditioning for people who showed me who they are. You guys, I think there's a beast in all of us that needs to be unleashed. But the thing is, how are you going to unleash the beast? Is what you need to ask yourself. If I unleash this beast, can my character remain intact? And if you realize, oh crap, I can unleash this beast inside of me and still remain authentic, still remain a good person, you unleash it, and you unleash it full force because you realize this beast is what is going to protect you. You know what I realized? Being loved only when you are convenient is still lonely. Being surrounded by people who require you to abandon yourself is still lonely. Sometimes choosing yourself is the first time you actually stop feeling alone, even when you are physically alone. You no longer feel it anymore. When you stop doing that, you become somebody you can trust. Imagine that. Somebody I can trust. Somebody I should have already been for myself. If something feels wrong, I listen to myself the first time and I don't second guess it. If somebody repeatedly disrespect me, because I can't give people the benefit of the doubt and still protect myself, I have mastered that. But I can give someone the benefit of the doubt and realize that, okay, I cannot repeatedly let this person continue to hurt me. That is what self-trust looks like. And self-respect grows from self-trust. You become somebody whose your own words matter to you, and that changes your presence. And I've noticed that, like I would ask myself recently, like, what is it about me that changed? I don't think I changed. I think I'm still a kind person. I'm still a good person. I'm still pleasant. I'm still sweet. I'm still, I'm still me. But I noticed that people who knew me and new people, they don't respond to me the same. And there are little things I noticed about myself that did change. I no longer care to overly perform for people who is playing a game. And I didn't realize I was in the game. When I stopped playing this game that I didn't even realize I was playing, and I gave them nothing to work with, I realized more and more that most human beings are playing a game. And when they see that you're not playing that game and you are the real deal, holy Phil, not that I'm perfect by a long shot, but I'm the real. I'm not playing a game. When they see that, they become uncomfortable. They become uncomfortable. They become all flustered. They become, I don't know how to explain, they just become uncomfortable. Like, oh, she see through me and she's not even saying it. But I can feel it in my bones. Like that's the energy I sense from some people. I think there becomes a point where remembering who you were before everybody taught you that being accepted was more important than being whole, than being free. You just keep telling her to be quiet. That's not freedom. Don't tell her, that person inside of you, to be quiet anymore. Let her protect your standards. Let her protect your peace. Let her protect your ability to say no. Let her disappoint somebody. Let her walk away. Let her choose you. Because at some point, you have to stop trying to become the person everybody approves of and become the person you can respect when you are alone with yourself. That is the goal. Not becoming cold, not becoming cruel, not becoming impossible to love, becoming impossible to disrespect. That's what you need to become. And when you can master the ability to stay kind, stay loving, stay generous, but give all those beautiful parts of yourself a gate, right? Everybody does not deserve unrestricted access. And your self-respect should be standing at that gate, deciding who gets through, who gets to come in. Because the woman who finally chooses herself is not dangerous because she wants to hurt somebody. She is dangerous to, ding, 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 unhealthy dynamics because she can no longer be controlled through fear of losing approval. And maybe that is the beast they wanted you to bury. So unleash her. Unleash the beast. I'm Sahara Loveland, and you were tuned into Sahara Speaks. If you would like to purchase my memoir, The Ordinary Black Woman, you can find it on Amazon, paperback and ebook available. I'll see you in the next video. Have a lovely day.